The ideas that we will introduce in these lectures have wide applicability across many areas of physics. However, we will spend much of this lecture studying just a single example. This example is known as the Ising model, and it provides a particularly simple model of a magnet. Despite its simplicity, the Ising model already contains many of the concepts that will keep us occupied for the rest of the course. Having understood the Ising model in some detail, we see how this idea play out in many other phases of matter in the later section. The Ising model is easy to state, yet hard to solve. We have a lattice in D spatial dimension. Containing n side. On each lattice side, I equal 1 up to n, there live a discrete variable which can take one of two states. So this discrete variables Si equal plus 1 or Si equal minus 1. It is useful to refer to these states as spins, with Si plus 1 meaning spin up, and Si minus 1 spin down. However, we won't be using any machinery from quantum mechanics. There are no commuting operators, no quantum superposition of states. In this sense, the Ising model, while discrete, is purely classical. So this is classical. The collection of spins has energy E equals minus B sum of Si minus J Ij Si Sj. The first term arises due to an external magnetic field B that we impose on the system. It has the effect that for B larger than 0, the spins want to be up, because that will lower their energy. Properly, this should be the magnetizing field H, but we are using B to avoid confusion with the Hamiltonian. There is also a factor of the magnetic moment that we absorb into B. With the first term alone, the individual spins don't talk to each other, and the model is easy to solve. It is the second term that makes life more interesting. This is an interaction between neighboring spins. The notation Ig means that we sum over all nearest neighbor pairs in the lattice. The number of such pairs depends both on the dimension D and the type of lattice. If J larger than 0, neighboring spins prefer to be aligned up or down. In the context of magnetism, such a system is called a ferromagnet. If J less than 0, the spins want to anti-align, so up, down. This is an anti-ferromagnet. In the following, we choose J larger than 0 also for our purpose. The differences are minor. For what it's worth, the anti-ferromagnetic case with J less than 0 becomes more subtle on certain lattices where it's not possible to arrange the spins so that they are opposite to all their neighbors. A two-dimension triangular lattice provides a simple example. The resulting physics is interesting and it's known as geometrical frustation. We will not discuss it here. We are interested in the physics of the Ising model at a finite temperature T. We can already get some intuition for what will happen. The interaction energy encourages the spin to align in the same way. The magnetic field encourages the spin to align in a particular way. Meanwhile, the temperature encourages the spin to ignore both interaction and magnetic field. Because at finite temperature, energy is no longer at a premium. Instead, entropy becomes more important. Since there are many more random configurations than aligned configuration, the temperature will tend to mess up the nice order states that the interaction and magnetic field have so carefully prepared. Already we can see that, like any good story, we are starting with a healthy dose of narrative tension between our main characters. In the canonical ensemble, the probability of sitting in a configuration of spins Si is given by P Si equal with exponential to the power of beta E Si by Z. Beta is equal with 1 divided by T, while the normalization factor Z is called the partition function. And is given by Z as a function of T, J, and B equals summation of Si minus beta E Si. The beauty of statistical mechanics is that even though Z is first introduced as an innocuous normalization factor, it actually contains everything we want to know about the system. If we are able to perform the sum to compute Z, we can extract any information we want. For example, the interplay between energy and entropy S is captured by the thermodynamic free energy F thermo As the notation shows, this is a function of thermodynamic variables T and B. We don't usually add the subscript thermo to the free energy, but for much of this lecture we will be working with a more refined version of the free energy, which we will introduce shortly. Of particular interest to us will be the average spin of the configuration, which we refer to as the equilibrium magnetization, which is M equals 1 divided by N sub, I Si. This takes value in the range M of -1 plus 1. From our discussion above, we would expect that for B larger than 0, M reaching plus 1, at low temperatures where the spins are ordered, and M approaching 0 at high temperatures where the spins are arranged randomly. So this one is low temperatures. We would like to make this intuition more precise. Using the probability here, it is straightforward. To check the magnetization can be written as M equals 1 divided by N I assumption of SI I and equal with 1 divided by N beta D log Z B. Taking further derivatives allow us to compute higher moments of the distribution and so learn about fluctuation around the average. We will see this in action later in this lecture. Our task is now clear. We should compute the sum here. This is easier said than done. It turns out that the sum is straightforward in a D equals 1 dimensional lattice, and you will do this on an example. An exact solution also exists in D equals 2 when B equals 0, originally due to Onsager. It is not straightforward. In higher dimensions, no exact solutions are available. Although, various expansion and tricks have been invented to manipulate the sum, to extract some interesting information. In this lecture, we will not attempt to directly sum the microscopic spins in the partition function. Instead, we will rephrase the question. We will massage the partition function into a somewhat different form, one that has much broader application.